What if your greatest role was one you never saw? Credits roll, lights dim. Their final scenes ignite, immortalized. Legends gone too soon. Their art defies time. Whose story lingers in your mind? In the world of Hollywood, some stories transcend the silver screen, becoming legends written in both triumph and tragedy. Paul Walker was more than just an actor. He was a beacon of charisma who transformed the Fast and Furious franchise from a simple action series into a global phenomenon. As Brian O'Connor, he wasn't just driving cars, he was driving dreams, connecting with millions through his authentic, effortless cool. November 30th, 2013 began like any other day of purpose. Walker had just finished a charity event for Reach. Out worldwide, his humanitarian foundation dedicated to disaster relief. The irony would soon become heartbreakingly apparent. Climbing into a sleek red 2005 Porsche Carrera GT beside his close friend Roger Rodas, no one could have predicted the devastating moment that would freeze time forever. The Valencia streets became a silent witness. 83 miles per hour in a 45-mile zone, a split second between life and legend. When the car veered off the road, slamming into a concrete lamppost and trees before erupting into an inferno, it wasn't just a crash. It was the sudden, violent end of a story mid-chapter. Hollywood faced an impossible choice. Furious 7 was, mid-production, Walker's absence a gaping wound in the narrative. But instead of surrender, something extraordinary happened. With the blessing of Walker's family, Universal embarked on an unprecedented journey, investing $50 million to complete a film that would become more than a movie. It became a memorial. Using cutting-edge CGI and the heartbreaking dedication of Walker's brothers, Cody and Caleb, they crafted a farewell that would bring audiences to tears. Archival audio, carefully integrated performances, and raw, emotional storytelling transformed a potential tragedy into a celebration of life. When Furious 7 finally reached theaters in 2015, it was more than a film. It was a collective mourning, a global goodbye. That final scene, Brian driving into a sunset, symbolizing a peaceful departure, wasn't just cinema. It was closure, a testament that some legacies cannot be extinguished, even when life is cut unexpectedly short. Paul Walker never saw his final performance, but in those moments he became immortal. In the constellation of Hollywood stars, some burn so brilliantly they illuminate the entire sky, even in their absence. Heath Ledger was such a star, a chameleon of cinema whose potential seemed limitless until fate decided to write a different script. When Christopher Nolan cast Ledger as the Joker, it wasn't just a role. It was a transformation waiting to happen. Hollywood whispered, then roared with anticipation. Ledger wasn't just playing a character. He was about to redefine what it meant to become a villain. January 22nd, 2008, a date that would freeze time. In a Manhattan loft, surrounded by the silent echoes of unfinished dreams, a 28-year-old genius was silenced forever. An accidental overdose. 3 simple words that would rob the world of a generational talent. The Dark Knight became more than a film. It became a memorial, a performance so raw, so haunting that the Academy would posthumously crown Ledger with an Oscar, a bittersweet acknowledgement of a genius who would never know his own immortality. When the film premiered, it wasn't just a movie release. It was a collective mourning, a celebration of a talent extinguished too soon. His Joker, anarchic, mesmerizing, utterly transformative, would become the standard against which all future villains would be measured. On film sets of The Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus, friends became guardians of his legacy. Johnny Depp, Jude Law, and Colin Farrell didn't just complete a film, they crafted a tribute, ensuring Ledger's final performance would not be forgotten. Some stories don't end, they simply transform. Some stories are written in silence, their most profound chapters hidden between the lines of what the world sees. Chadwick Boseman's final performance was one such story, a whispered masterpiece of resilience and artistry. Known to millions as the regal Black Panther, Boseman was far more than a superhero. He was an alchemist of human emotion, transforming historical figures and fictional characters into living, breathing legends. In Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, he wasn't just acting, he was revealing his soul. Behind the camera, a private battle raged. Diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer in 2016, Boseman continued to create, to inspire, to transform pain into poetry. Each scene in Ma Rainey became a defiant brushstroke against his own mortality, a performance painted with the colors of pure unbridled passion. When the film premiered posthumously, it wasn't just a movie release, it was a celebration of a life that burned so intensely it could never truly be extinguished. Oscar nominations became more than accolades, they were a collective tribute to a man who turned his final chapter into his most magnificent performance. Some legends don't just live live in history, they explode through it, shattering expectations and rewriting the very fabric of human potential. Bruce Lee was such a legend, a thunderbolt of human capability wrapped in human form. More than a martial artist, he was a philosopher, a revolutionary who transformed how the world saw strength, race, and cinema. Each movement was a statement, each strike a manifesto against limitation. In Hollywood's rigid landscape, Lee wasn't just breaking barriers, he was demolishing them with volcanic force. Enter the Dragon was to be his coronation, his moment of global validation. But fate, cruel and indifferent, had a different screenplay. 6 days before the film's premiere, at merely 32 years old, Lee would become immortal in a way no script could have written. On July 20th, 1973, cerebral edema claimed his physical form. But legends are not measured by breaths taken, but by breaths stolen from audiences worldwide. When Enter the Dragon finally illuminated screens, it wasn't just a film. It was a supernova, brilliant, transformative, eternal. Some legacies are written in blood, inherited through pain, and transformed by destiny. Brandon Lee was not just a son of a legend, he was a legend rewriting his own narrative, one frame at a time. Stepping into Hollywood with the weight of his father's shadow and the fire of his own ambition, Brandon was more than an actor. He was a phoenix preparing to rise, unaware that his most profound performance would become his final testament. The Crow was supposed to be his breakthrough, a dark, gothic ballet of revenge and resurrection, but art would cruelly mirror life in ways no script could predict. A prop gun, a single fatal moment. 28 years of potential, extinguished in a heartbeat. When the film premiered in 1994, it wasn't just a movie release. It was a collective mourning, a cinematic eulogy crafted by filmmakers determined to honor a star whose light was snuffed out too soon. Brandon's performance as Eric Draven transcended the screen, a haunting echo of a life interrupted. Some stories don't end, they become immortal. James Dean wasn't just an actor. He was a revolution wrapped in human form, a thunderbolt of raw emotion that would redefine generations. In Hollywood's carefully choreographed world, Dean was a wild symphony, untamed, unpredictable, utterly magnetic. From East of Eden to Rebel Without a Cause, he wasn't performing roles. He was revealing the turbulent soul of an entire generation, one piercing glance at a time. Giant was to be his final canvas, a sprawling epic where he would paint his most complex character. Alongside Elizabeth Taylor and Rock Hudson, Dean was crafting a performance that would transcend cinema. But fate, indifferent to talent, had another script. September 30th, 1955, a date that would freeze time. 24 years of potential, extinguished in a moment of twisted metal and shattered dreams. When Giant premiered, it wasn't just a film release. It was a memorial, a posthumous coronation of a talent too brilliant to be contained. Some spirits are too powerful to be confined by time. They echo beyond their years, leaving an imprint that defies mortality. Heather O'Rourke was such a spirit, a luminous force who transformed horror into poetry before most children learned to read. In the shadowy realm of cinema, she wasn't just an actress. She was a portal, channeling something profound and otherworldly. Her iconic whisper, "They're here!" became more than a line. It was a cultural heartbeat, a moment that defined a generation's understanding of supernatural storytelling. Poltergeist 3 was to be her next chapter, a continuation of a journey that had already captured millions of hearts. But fate, cruel and indifferent, had a different screenplay. While most children dreamed, O'Rourke was creating art, unaware that her performance would become her final testament. February 1st, 1988, 12 years of potential compressed into a moment of devastating silence. When the film released in June, it wasn't just a movie, it was a memorial, a bittersweet farewell to a star who burned too briefly but too brilliantly. Philip Seymour Hoffman was a rare talent, an actor who could disappear into any role, bringing depth and nuance to every performance. From his Oscar-winning turn in Capote to his unforgettable presence in Boogie Nights and The Master, he left an undeniable mark on cinema. By 2013, he had stepped into the Hunger Games franchise, captivating a new generation as the enigmatic Plutarch Heavensbee. But at the height of his success, tragedy struck. On February 2nd, 2014, Hoffman passed away from a drug overdose, leaving Mockingjay Part 2 unfinished. Rather than using CGI to complete his scenes, director Francis Lawrence chose a different approach. A heartfelt moment was rewritten. Woody Harrelson's Haymitch reads a letter from Plutarch to Katniss, preserving Hoffman's presence without artificial reconstruction. Both Mockingjay Part 1 and Part 2 were released posthumously, allowing fans to see him on screen one last time. Though he never witnessed the final chapter, his legacy endures, reminding us of the raw talent and humanity he brought to every role. Carrie Fisher was more than just Princess Leia. She was a sharp-witted, fearless icon who shaped Star Wars and Hollywood alike. But when she passed away on December 27, 2016, at the age of 60, her journey wasn't quite over. A year after her death, audiences saw her one last time in Star Wars: The Last Jedi, filmed before her passing and released in December 2017. But that wasn't the end. In 2019, The Rise of Skywalker brought Leia back using repurposed footage from The Force Awakens, allowing Fisher to remain part of the saga she helped define. Though she never saw these final chapters, her presence endures, not just in the galaxy, far, far away, but in the hearts of fans who will forever cherish her brilliance, humor, and unapologetic spirit. Robin Williams, the beloved actor and comedian, built his legacy on frenetic stand-up comedy and wacky film roles. Whether in stand-up, heartfelt dramas, or family comedies, he had a rare gift for making audiences laugh and cry in the same breath. But on August 11, 2014, the world lost that light when Williams passed away at the age of 63. Even after his death, his magic lived on. 3 films featuring Williams were released posthumously: A Merry Friggin' Christmas, where his sharp humor shined, Absolutely Anything, a sci-fi comedy that captured his playful spirit, and Night at the Museum, Secret of the Tomb, where he, once again, brought Theodore Roosevelt to life. Though he never saw these final performances, they serve as a lasting tribute to his genius. Robin Williams didn't just entertain, he made the world feel a little brighter, and that light will never fade. Chris Farley was a force of nature, a comedic whirlwind who stole the spotlight on Saturday Night Live and won hearts with films like Tommy Boy. His boundless energy and larger-than-life humor made him unforgettable. But behind the laughter, he struggled with personal demons. On December 18, 1997, Farley was found dead in his Chicago apartment from a drug overdose at just 33 years old. 6 months later, his final film, Almost Heroes, was released, a buddy comedy alongside Matthew Perry, though not his most famous work. It served as a bittersweet farewell, reminding fans of the talent the world lost too soon.